How can I stop my busy mind? A talk with Unmani.
So often we feel that we have a busy mind because we notice that, first of all, of course, there are many thoughts coming and going, but maybe also that there is a physical sensation or sensations that go along with those thoughts that create tension or contraction, stress, anxiety, felt physically. And this is uncomfortable, obviously. And so then we're trying to find a solution to this discomfort. And the thinking tries to find this solution by thinking about it and therefore creating more thought, more of a busy mind. So it's a bit of a vicious circle, thinking about what a busy mind we have and thinking about how to stop thinking. So first of all, I would say that most likely there are less, let's say there is more space in between the thoughts than you think. Because often we overlook that when we are focused on something, when we are at rest, or when we are engaged with someone, interacting with someone, or looking at someone, or appreciating nature, or with an animal, that there are plenty moments when there are no thoughts. But of course, yes, thought comes in again, doing its job of filling the gaps, explaining everything, trying to understand everything, trying to create a safe existence for this human, trying to survive in the world. And that's the thinking's job, right? That's the mind's job, to be a wonderful and incredibly creative tool for being in the world. And it's really, really good at that job. And it's so good that it's working overtime, right? It has such a good intention to try to help, that it tries to help in all kinds of areas that perhaps it doesn't even really know how to help in those areas. For example, in trying to, say, wake up to your true nature, the thinking can be very busy trying to integrate spiritual concepts, trying to become a more awakened person, these kinds of things that the thinking takes on spiritual concepts to try to do those concepts. And it's simply not in the realm of the thinking to do that. The thinking is in fact limited. It is incredibly creative and in a way unlimited in its realm of thinking, but it is also limited in that it can only ever know how to be in the world, or how to regurgitate old information and process it and spit it out at relevant moments that it thinks are relevant, or it knows how to process information, how to remember, store information, and remember memories, and sort through and classify different information. It comes with brilliant ideas. It loves dreaming and fantasizing about what could be or should be, what might be, what should have been, regrets and guilt, all these kinds of dreams that thought is very good at, creating these stories. It's very good at creating identities, being someone, in order to create a reference point, a someone to be in the world, a me that is located. So the thinking creates some kind of imaginary location and person and reference point in order to create a sense of safety, to create something in nothing, because essentially there is nothing here, and that can be frightening and feel very unsafe for the thinking. So it does this great job of creating this person that is something in nothing, in the boundless, unlimited emptiness that is our true nature. So it has these amazing qualities, but it cannot really know how to be or who to be or what is actually going on in this life. It is simply a useful servant, a useful tool for being in the world. And so when we see it like this, when we see that the thinking cannot know all the answers, and when we see that it is trying its best to help, it has a really good intention, but it is only ever going to be regurgitating old information. It cannot know what is freshly alive and present in this moment. It cannot grasp that, because what is present is so fresh, so alive, and all that the thinking can do is, in a way, deaden everything, because it puts it in a box, it puts a label on it and files it away. And that's just its job. It's not about right or wrong. That's just what it does. So instead of making the thinking or the mind the enemy, and trying to fix or deal with this problem of this terrible busy mind, if we start to get to know it, start to make friends with it, start to look at it compassionately, that it is trying its best, it's based on old programs. We get to know these old programs. We get to know all the different identities that are playing out, all, in a way, all the different children that are within us, that each one has its say, wants to express itself in a different way, or each one feels threatened and comes with different ways to deal with that threat in order to survive in the world. So as we get to know these things, we also take more distance from these thoughts and these identities, these mental processes. And as we see it from more of a distance, we can also embrace it, and at the same time know that it's not in control. The thinking may have a lot to say, but it is not who you are. It is not in charge here. You are. When I say in charge, I don't mean that somehow you are a higher thought that is in charge of your life. All thoughts are thought. You know, it's in the same way they all have different roles, but who you are is that awareness of them all. You are, in a way, like the ultimate parent, parenting all these little children that arise in you. So we can meet these little children with compassion, seeing their limitations, seeing their strengths as well, but also their limitations, and setting boundaries like you would for any child, setting boundaries so that these thoughts, the mind knows that it's not in charge. It doesn't need to be in charge. It doesn't need to have all the answers. It doesn't need to know everything. As we see that it's possible to live without knowing it all, we free fall in not knowing. The thinking might start to freak out a little bit because that's its nature. It is trying to create safety. It's trying to create something, to be known and familiar so that it can put it in its little box and file it away. But it is possible to live in this world using thought as a tool, as a servant, but without it running the human life. Knowing that actually life is living itself through this human, including the mind. The mind is not separate from life. It's not a big problem that is disturbing anything or anyone. So it's a very different way of looking at the mind that I'm talking about here. Not seeing it as this big problem of, oh, my busy mind, I've got to deal with it. But actually welcoming it, like you would to a little child. In a way saying, thank you, thought. Thank you, my mind. You have kept me safe all these years. You've tried your best, and you will no doubt continue to try your best to help. But it's okay to not know. It's okay to have these gaps where you might feel uncomfortable or frightened. But it is in those gaps where you start to see that actually life can be lived freely, in free fall, in not knowing, welcoming the mind as a wonderful tool, but it is not the boss. Life itself is in charge here. So all we can do is surrender to that. And thought loves to surrender to life itself. It's not meant to be responsible for knowing it all. Its nature is to just be a tool. So it's actually very relaxing for the thinking to say, actually, you know what, I don't know. I don't know how to deal with this. I don't know what the answers are. I'll try my best to come up with different pros and cons or different possibilities. But essentially, in the end, I'm not in charge. I don't know how to do it. I don't know how to live this life. And there is a bowing down in that not knowing. A bowing down of the servant to the true master, which is life itself.